is like the roof of our hostel, super chilled. This is a bathtub, not entirely sure why. Finally got to sleep in a little bit. After doing the Colored Mountains, we were dead tired. So I went downstairs in the hostel. I slept in so late. Caught up with Theo. We actually got on the computer at the hostel and bought tickets from La Paz to Colombia.
The best way to do it, I think, would be to go from Bolivia from here.
Yeah.
Spend some time there, and then from La Paz, fly to Bogota.
So that added 2 countries to the list. We walked around in the city. We just kind of like enjoyed Puno with the girls. So we were walking down this road and we walked into this kind of like mall area. There's all kinds of different like shops in this little mall, and one of them was like a little tattoo place. So Theo ended up getting his ear pierced. And then it turned into Mary Margaret getting hers, and I said I would, so I did it. Mary Margaret did it, and then Sarah Beth did it, and Sarah Beth didn't flinch. It was ridiculous. And then we walked up to this place called Condor Mountain. We could look down over the city. It was really beautiful. You could see Lake Titicaca and some other stuff, so that was really sweet. We got up at 6:30 for our tour to Lake Titicaca. We toured these floating islands, which were incredible, and people live on these floating islands. We rode like 2.5 hours to a place called Tequila Island. And then we got back on the boat, and we ended up spending most of the boat ride on the top of the boat, just kind of like hanging out, and we floated back to Puno. We ended up saying bye to the girls right after that.
So I don't have cats, right?
Not actually.
Yeah, you just gotta go in your head.
Let me see your ice cream.
No.
So much fun. Thank you guys for staying. Immediately after that, me and Theo went and bought our bus ticket to La Paz. So we left the next day for Bolivia. We got on a 6-hour bus ride from Puno to La Paz. It was really, really hard crossing the border. And it was really sketchy, but we did it. We crossed the border, we got into Bolivia, and then we got to this sweet hostel in La Paz. So I wasn't feeling very good on the bus ride there, but the next day I woke up really, really sick. I ended up staying in bed for like 2 full days. And I knew I needed to eat something, so I decided to go out. It took all of my energy, but I left the hostel and I walked down the street to find an apple. This lady had some apples. I didn't have a small enough bill to try to buy an apple from this lady. A little Bolivian businessman looking guy kind of came up and was like, "Hey, where are you from?" He started talking to me, and he ended up buying me 3 apples, and he was just kind of like, "Bolivia's a little bit crazy, but welcome, you know, it's beautiful."
Thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. You're very welcome here. Thank you. This country is a little crazy country, but it's very interesting.
A little crazy, but it's beautiful. I like it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
I still felt pretty bad, and I was dreading the night bus, but I knew I had to do it, so me and Theo just buckled down, and we got on this 10-hour night bus to Sucre. Ended up spending the night on this bus, and we woke up in the morning. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. We were in Sucre. And that was where we met our guide for our upcoming 3 days on the salt flats. So the first day we ate some really good food, and then we left the salt flats, crossed a bit of desert, and then came back into some other salt flats where our hostel was at. And we get into this hostel, and literally everything was made of salt. The ground is salt, like the floor. The table was made of salt. The nightstand was made of salt. The beds were made of salt. The walls were made of salt. You could see like carvings in the salt on the walls. And you wouldn't believe it, but the ceilings were made out of like stucco or something like that. So we woke up at 6:30 and ate breakfast at the little salt hostel. We drove a lot that day. We saw a bunch of different colored lagoons, which was really cool. We got to see all kinds of different lagoons. There were flamingos, and then we got to this other lagoon that was blood red. It was the weirdest thing ever. We walked around and explored this like desert area, which was really cool. And then we drove a bit more and we saw this rock formation that I guess has just been really weathered at the base, and it's standing up. I think it's called the Rock Tree. And then the hostel was made of dirt this time, so we ended up like staying in this place, like all the dirt. It was a bit nicer. They had like tile floors, but like dirt walls and stuff like that. Watched sunrise over the desert. It was beautiful. And then we drove to these geysers, which were insane. We actually could jump through one of them. and then some of them were actually pretty crazy. It was like boiling mud was coming out of the ground in the desert. So
Oh my god.
you'd look and all the steam is coming out. And it's like bright early in the morning. It was beautiful. The sun was kind of coming through the steam, and it kind of smelled like sulfur. It was really interesting. We left that, and then we went to the hot springs, and the hot springs was another kind of like touristy hot spring. So we ended up just dipping our feet in it and kind of hanging out. It was pretty chilly in the morning. 2 of the people that were with us were French, and they were actually headed to Chile. And the company that we booked with will drop people at Chile if they want to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so we actually drove to the border between Bolivia and Chile, and we dropped the French travelers off so that those 2 could get on their way. And after that, that was it. Our guide spoke Spanish, and the 2 other people that were with us spoke Spanish. So me and Theo had next to no idea what was going on. Theo speaks a bit more Spanish than I do, but it was quite the interesting time, spending time with just Spanish speakers in this one car for like hours on end. I'm sorry if it's getting kind of dark. It's kind of pretty though. This is sweet. I'm in La Paz, by the way. On our hostel that we stayed in when I was sick, we were back in La Paz. We dropped our friends off and then we drove back. I was sitting in the front seat because we had just dropped off the French couple, and so we had a bit more room in the car. And there's this guy on a little adventure bike, 2 people, and the guy in the back kind of swerves off the road just a little bit and ends up in some sand. I actually watched him crash. It was really crazy. His bike dug into the sand and flipped, and we ended up stopping for a moment and kind of helping him get back on his feet, get back on the road. Okay, so I've been saying this wrong the entire time. Not Sucre. Our night bus tickets were to Uni. So all the previous times that I've said Sucre, I apologize, it was Uni. So that's where we stayed in between Uni and La Paz. We bought night bus tickets to Sucre. So Sucre is the capital of Bolivia. We ended up just kind of hanging out there a bit. It was really nice. We played a bunch of ping pong, and Theo beat me pretty much every time. And then we went to this little outdoor concert at the local plaza. So then the next day we woke up at 9 or so. We took a cab to the Sucre airport. Instead of taking a night bus, we ended up actually getting on like a 45-minute flight from Sucre. We got to La Paz and just kind of like hung out. We were just like enjoying the town. We had like 16 hours until our flight later tonight. So we've just been kind of hanging out. We rode on the cable cars, which was really interesting. It rides over like a soccer field and racquetball court. It drops off at one point, and just you can see this huge piece of La Paz, and it just like shows you how absolutely immense La Paz is. It's really, really crazy. After that, we just walked back, and on the way back, Theo out of nowhere decides he wants a mohawk. It didn't take long. We found a little spot, and some guy shaved most of Theo's hair off, and now he has a mohawk. And then we walked back to the hostel that we stayed at when I was sick, which is where I'm filming this right now. Since we had already stayed here, they said that it was fine if we just kind of hang out until our flight at 3:30 in the morning. So we're headed to Colombia. That's what we'll start with, I guess, next time. One of my favorite things this week was being able to just kind of kick a soccer ball around with Theo and this Bolivian guy that was on our Salt Flats tour. It was just kind of a really simple but like pretty fun experience. It kind of stuck. It was just kind of one of those things that sticks. Yo, check out where I'm recording this. This is so sweet. It's beautiful.